Good morning. Welcome to another pre-recorded lecture on solving equations. In this session, try natin mag-solve ng mga equations na mayroong mga galit kayo dito, fractions and decimal terms or coefficients. Now, hopefully by the end of this video, confident ka na mag-solve ng ganyang equations at hindi na tayo takot sa mga fractions and decimals. Sabi ko naman dati, there's really no need to be afraid of them. They're just numbers. They just look different, but they are still numbers. Okay? So let's try and solve equations that involve fractions and decimals as either terms or coefficients. Let's start with something simple. This equation here, negative 11 over 5 equals x minus 2. Now, there are multiple ways of dealing with this equation. There's really nothing wrong with, say, if you want to isolate x, immediately add 2 to both sides of the equation. That's fine. However, for most people, and this is true also when equations get more and more difficult, they find that immediately adding or subtracting something to isolate the variable, they still end up dealing with fractions, having to deal with the fractions or decimals, which you will see later. Now, is there a way, sir, to sort of avoid this? No? Mas expert ako, sir, when I deal with integers whether as terms or as coefficients. And to do that, we need to examine this number here, which involves the fraction. No? We have negative 11 over 5. Let us recall a property of numbers that we learned from the second term, 11 over 5. If you might remember, si 11 over 5, yan ay equal sa, sulat natin, negative 11 over 5. That is simply, what? Isn't that negative 11 times 1/5? Tama, di ba? And this is, remember, guaranteed by the definition of division. No, that dividing by a number is the same as multiplying the reciprocal of that number. So instead of dividing by 5, we can also multiply negative 11 by 1/5. Di ba? And in this case, although sabi nga natin if you do not want to deal with fractions, so this is what you have to, quote unquote, get rid of. And how do you get rid of the 1/5 without affecting the truth of the equality? You don't just erase the 1/5, of course. If you want the value of the equation to be the same, what is a good multiplier to get rid of the 1/5? And by getting rid of the 1/5, look, what is the easiest way to do that? Isn't that by multiplying by the reciprocal of 1/5, which in this case is 5? Kasi if I multiply 1/5 by 5, basically, that is just 1. Di ba? Remember what we do here when you're multiplying a fraction by a whole number, like 5. A long method natin konti. Di ba kayo dati nilalagay nyo pa yan ng 1 sa ilalim? And then what you do is you cancel out common factors that are found in the numerator and in the denominator. So in this case, I see a common factor, may 5 sa taas, may 5 sa baba. Diba? They cancel out each other as 1. So ang namatita talaga sa'yo ay 1. Diba? So by that same principle, if you notice this, no, balik tayo kay negative 11 over 5. Kapag binigyan ko si negative 11 over 5, by itself lang muna, by itself, as a number by itself. If I multiply negative 11 over 5 by 5, by that same principle, I'm canceling out common factors top and bottom. I'm left with negative 11. O diba? From being a fraction, napagmukha natin siyang integer. No? But of course, in this case, we altered the value of our original number, negative 11 over 5. When you multiply it by 5, obviously you altered its value. However, ang gusto natin dun, ang maganda ron, hindi na siya fraction. So, minultiply natin by 5. So, by that same principle, look at this. If I want to get rid of this denominator 5, we can do exactly what we did a while ago. I can multiply negative 11 over 5 by 5 to get rid of that denominator. But remember, by MPE, I also need to multiply the right side of the equation by 5. Kasi ginawa mo sa left eh. So, I am also supposed to multiply the right side of the equation by 5. Di ba? So, pwedeng ganyan ang gawin natin. Now, what happens here? The 5 on the left cancels out top and bottom, leaving me with negative 11 on the left. And look, the right side. That's 5 times the quantity x minus 2. Remember, you're multiplying the 5 to the entire right-hand side of the equation. So, I will have to distribute by way of multiplication. So, that's going to be a 5x, di ba? Minus 10. Di ba? Dali. And then what? Now, all you have to deal with are integers as terms or coefficients. Nagmukha na siyang simple equation like what we have been solving. No? So here, what do we want to eliminate? Maybe we'd like to eliminate the minus 10 on the right. To do that, we add 10 to both sides of the equation. That cancels out on the right, leaving me with just 5x on the right. 10 minus 11 on the left, that's a negative 1. Then finally, look, I need to eliminate my 5. So I divide both sides by 5 to get, finally, x to be negative 1/5. Now, again, kung hindi kayo comfortable na ganito ang position niya, okay lang. You can switch the sides of the equation. Dito mo lagay sa kaliwa si x, dito mo lagay sa kanan si negative 1/5. Remember, you can do that. You're allowed to do that by the symmetric property of equality. So see, our answer is this. No? Our solution is negative 1/5 for the equation. Okay? Dali lang, di ba? Imumultiply mo lang yung isang number that will cancel out that particular denominator. And typically, it's the same denominator, it's the same number. Notice kung babalikan mo ito. Ano gusto mong tanggalin na denominator? 5. Ano pinang-multiply mo? Eh di 5 din. No? But make sure that you have to do that to both sides of the equation. Okay? Let's look at more examples. Next. Here. Diba? We have negative 1/3, 1 and 1/3 plus x equals 8 over 3. Okay? So let's try this. Again, no? If you notice, ano ang gusto kong tanggalin dito na denominator? That is 3. No? Now for others, they would rather deal with improper fractions than mixed numbers, no, when they're performing operations. So maybe that's the first step that you can do if you want. You can convert the mixed number into an improper fraction. So we go 3 times negative 1, that's negative 3. 3 times 1 rather, that's 3 plus 1, that's 4/3. No? So the negative 1 and 1/3 is negative 4/3. So pwedeng ganyan, convert mo na muna. Plus x equals 8/3. Okay? Diba? Simple. And now what? Now we need to remove the denominator. It so happened that even though you have two fractions in this equation, they have the same denominator. So, convenient. Again, gusto mong tanggalin si 3 as denominator, anong gagawin ko? Mag-multiply ako ng 3. 3 sa buong left side, 3 sa buong right side. Look what happens here again, ano? Si 3 sa left, kailangan niya i-DPMA mo yan dito. Distributive property of multiplication over addition. Cancels out in the first term here, first multiplier, leaving you with negative 4. Na-cancel mo na yung 3. And then there's still the 3 times x. So meron kang plus 3x. Yan. O, diba? And then on the right, look what happens. 3 and 3, again, cancel each other out, leaving me with 8. O, diba? Dali na ng itsura ng equation mo. Negative 4 plus 3x equals 8. Maybe we can eliminate the minus 4 first. So we add our 4 to both sides of the equation. 4. Tanggal yan dito sa kaliwa, leaving me with 3x on the left and 8/12 on the right. O, diba? Very familiar looking. Divide na ako both sides by 3. Tanggal yan dito sa kaliwa. X therefore is 4. Diba? So again, walang kinakatakutan dapat sa fractions. Napakadali. Kailangan mo lang maging strategic sa kung ano ang ipang-multiply mo. And again, typically, what you use as a multiplier is the same denominator itself. However, may mga pagkakataon kasi na, what do you call this? They have different, the fractions that you see in your equation have different denominators. So, let's try something here. Here. What if you have 2x over 5 equals negative 1 over 10? pause nyo muna yung video, try nyo muna. Isipin nyo, ano kaya pwede kong gawin dito? Ano kaya magandang multiplier? Pause the video now, try it for yourself, and see if my solution matches yours. Okay, at this point, kapag hinit mo na yung play, dapat meron ka ng solution. Let's see. That's 2x over 5 equals 1 over 10. Imagine this. If you decided to multiply both sides by 5, no? If I decided to multiply both sides by 5, like this, yan, by 5, and this by 5, pwede, technically. Pinapayagan ka ni MPE na gawin yan. This cancels out the 5 on the left, leaving you with 2x. And on the right, look what happens. May magka-cancel out pa rin naman. No? Because the 10 and the 5 have a common factor, which is 5. However, may matitira dito na 2, leaving you with negative 1/2 on the right side. So, may fraction pa din. And the reason nga why we are multiplying a number at the beginning is to eliminate the fractions. So, what do you think is a better multiplier than 5? Pause, think time. Okay, kung ang sagot mo, ang multiplier dapat ay 10, that is correct. Ang best multiplier natin dito, if that is our goal, to eliminate the fractions, is 10. The question is, bakit 10? Kasi si 10, if I multiply both sides of the equation by 10, ano ang advantage ni 10? 10 kasi is divisible by both these two denominators, 5 and 10. Diba? Which means, you are able to eliminate the fraction on the right, leaving you with negative 1, as well as the fraction on the left. Yun nga lang, ang mangyayari dito, although may common factor ka may eliminate dito si 5. Ano? So, 10 and 5, both divided by 5, leaves you with the 2 up top, which will be multiplied to the 2x to give you 4x. Pero ganun pa din, na-eliminate mo sila in one go. And, the reason why we chose 10, again, as a multiplier is 10 is divisible by both 5 and 10. And it's not really that big of a number. In fact, it's the smallest number that can divide both 5 and 10. And what do we call such numbers? Tama. Tawag doon, remember, ay LCM. The least common multiple of your two denominators, 5 and 10. Siya yung ating best multiplier dito, the least common multiple. Granting that you have different denominators. The least common multiple, therefore, is our best multiplier. No, in one go, kaya niyang tanggalin yan sabay, yung dalawang fractions. Which is exactly what happened here. So we are left with the 4x equals negative 1. So now, what's left for us to do is to divide both sides by 4. Therefore, tanggalin dyan, x is equal to negative 1/4. O, diba? So, LCM ang pinamumultiply natin. LCM ng ano, sir? LCM ng lahat ng denominators mo. In other words, the LCD, least common denominator. Tama? Minsan yan kasi dalawang magkaibang denominators, minsan pa nga tatlo or more, no? But the key here is to multiply both sides of the equation by the least common multiple of all your denominators. Okay? Very simple. This one. Pause the video muna ulit and then try it for yourself. Hit play when you're done and check whether your solution and your final answer are correct. Okay, dapat pinlay mo na yung video, may sagot ka na. Tingnan natin ngayon, ano ang ating mga denominators na gustong tanggalin. We have here 3, we have a 2, and we have an 18. Oh, iba-iba, sir. So what do? Again, we look for the least common multiple of our 3 denominators. Ano ba ang LCM ng 3, 2, at 18? Correct. The answer is 18. So in this case, 18 is my best multiplier. I will now multiply both sides of the equation by 18. So ito, multiply ko yung buong yan by 18. I-multiply ko rin ang buong kanan by 18. Now, ito careful kayo ha. Examine the left side here. Hindi mo i-distribute ang 18 by multiplication. No. Because you only do that if what you're multiplying 18 by is a sum. Di ba? Kaya nga sabi, distributive property of multiplication over addition. But this is not addition. That's multiplication pa din. Di ba? So you only multiply the 18 to one of the two factors, whichever you want. Either the negative 5 thirds, or you distribute it to this 1/3 plus x. Pero isang beses lang dapat. Okay? So, let's do just that. Maybe we'll multiply it by the negative 5 thirds and see what happens. So, I multiply 18 by negative 5 thirds. So, tanggal ito. Matatanggal mo dyan si 3. No? Because 18 is 3 times 6. So, that leaves me with 6 here, which I multiply to the negative 5. So, that's a negative 30. Pero notice, may iwan pa ako na 1/3. Pero okay lang yan kasi nagkataon 30 yung multiplier mo. 'Di ba? Which is still fine. Plus x equals, ito na sa kabila. 18 times 1/2 x. So 18 and 2 here, you can cancel out the common factor 2, leaving you with 9 times your x is 9x. And then your 18, sa una yun, multiplication. And then you have your 18 times 29 over 18. Magka-cancel yung 18 dyan, leaving you with just 29. O, di ba? No problem. O, next, let's do DPMA on the left. O, di ba? Madali siya kasi 30 times, negative 30 times 1/3. So that leaves me with, that's 30, negative 30, and then you have a 3 at the bottom. May baka-cancel out ka dyan na common factor na 3, leaving you with negative 10 times 1. That's negative 10 minus 30x. Diba? Equals 9x plus 29. Now, both sides of the equation may variable. So again, we can choose where we'd like our variable to end up. Maybe on the left, sure, if that is your decision. Then we add negative 9x to both sides of the equation. Minus 9x to eliminate this. Tanggal? Tanggal. So, meron kang negative 9x dito at negative 30x, taking me to a negative 39x on the left, with the negative 10, of course, plus 29. Now, let's try and eliminate the minus 10 here. How do we do that? We add 10 to both sides of the equation, plus 10. Tanggal yan dyan, minus 39x na ako, equals, what's this? 39. Oops, convenient. Now, I'd like to eliminate my negative 39 as a coefficient. So, I divide both sides by minus 39. Minus 39. X, therefore, is negative 1. O, diba? Mukha lang complicated, mukha nakakatakot, but it's actually very easy. Okay? Now, sir, paano naman kung decimals? X plus 1/3, 1.3, sorry, equals negative 2.8. Now again, there is nothing wrong with outright subtracting both sides by 1.3. No problem. Pero again, mayroong mga tao na ayaw nilang mag-deal with decimal numbers. So what can we do? How do we not deal with these decimal numbers? Balik tayo sa lesson natin ng grade school. Tingnan natin, i-isolate muna natin si 1.3. 1.3. Sure, decimal number, sure, it's not an integer. What if I want to turn it into an integer, sir? Do you add something? No? Do I add 0.7? Yeah, adding 0.7 takes it to 2. But imagine if you added 0.7 to both sides of the equation. Does it solve the problem? It doesn't. But look at this instead. 1.3, if I multiply that by 10, ano mangyayari? Di ba yung magiging 13? Oh, integer na. And why did we use 10? Look at this. This is in the 3. It's in the 10th place here. And another way of saying it is, you have one decimal place. Which means your decimal point, if it moved once to the right, magiging integer ang iyong number. And remember, that is the technique that we were taught by our grade school math teachers. When we multiply by powers of 10, di ba? Meaning 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000, those are powers of 10. Remember when we multiply decimal numbers by powers of 10, binibilang lang natin yung number of zeros ng power of 10. And we move the decimal point to the right as many times as there are zeros in your multiplier. Ulit sir, medyo naguluhan ako dun. Let's say you have the number 2.785. Halimbawa. Look, if I multiply this by, what's my multiplier here? 1,000. Imagine mo lang, pag multiply mo yun by 1,000. How many zeros does this particular power of 10 have? 1, 2, 3. So, anong effect nun, sir? Sabi sa atin ng teacher ng grade school, kapag nag-multiply ka ng power of 10, gagalawin mo lang yung decimal point mo to the right as many times as there are zeros in your power of 10 multiplier. So, I have here 3 zeros. So, my product will be 2. Gagalaw yan, 1, 2, 3. Magiging 2,785. O, diba? Integer na siya. Oh, nice. So, if I go back to my equation therefore, how do I eliminate these decimal numbers? I multiply both sides of the equation by a power of 10. Di ba? And what choice should you pick for a power of 10? Depende sa decimal numbers mo. Nagkataon dito, how many times does it take for this decimal point to be moved to the right so that the number turns into an integer? And the answer is once. Once. Boop. 13 na yan. Same is true for negative 2.8. Pag galaw niya ng isa, boop. Negative 28 yan. So in both cases, in both these decimal numbers, it only takes one movement of the decimal point to the right to turn them into integers. Which means, what should I multiply both sides of the equation by? In terms of, powers of 10. Correct. Pinakamaganda ko multiplier dyan ay 10. 10, ako multiply magkabila. Bakit? Ano mangyayari dyan? 10 times x ka. 10x. And what happens here? 10 times 1/3. Again, we have showed that a while ago. That becomes 13. And what about the right side? Gagalaw yan once because this is a power of 10 with 1 0. That makes it minus 28. O, diba? Wala ka ng decimal numbers. O, solve na ako ngayon. What do I do now? I add negative 13 to both sides of the equation to eliminate this. I'm left with a 10x on the left. And you have a, what is this? Minus 28 plus minus 13. What would that be? That would be a minus 41. Tama? O huwag kabahan dito ha. Sir, parang ang pangit ng sagot. Okay lang, hindi naman kinakailangan sa pagkakataon maganda yung sagot. Okay? So what will that be? That will be x equals, if you divide both sides by 10, it's going to be x equals minus 41 over 10. Wala namang problema dyan. Okay? Simple. Next. Ito, pause. Kayo, try nyo naman. Pause the video now and try and solve the equation. Hit play when you're done. Okay, kung pinlay mo na, tapos ka na, may sagot ka na dapat. Let's see. Anong dapat natin multiplier dito? I examine my decimal numbers. One place lang naman kailangan. One movement lang kailangan. Dito sa kabila din. So, I multiply both sides of the equation by 10. O, diba? 10 times 1, 10. 10 times x, 10x. 10 times 0.1, 1. Tama? Equals, this will be 6. Again, mukha na siya simple. We go 10x plus, simplify mo natin, pwede natin combine to, 11 equals 6. Yeah. Then we subtract 11 from both sides or add negative 11 to both sides of the equation. Tanggal to dyan. 10x ako sa kaliwa. Minus 5 ako sa kanan. Then finally, divide both sides by 10. X equals negative. Simplify mo na yan. Dapat 1/2. Tama? Yan dapat ang nakuha yung sagot. Negative 1/2. Good. Sir, paano kung meron akong ganito? Meron ako dito, one step, one movement, one place value, it takes one movement to turn it into an integer. Ito, it takes two movements. 2, 1. So, ano multiplier mo? Now, of course, you wouldn't want to multiply both sides of the equation by 10. Because if you did, this negative 1.9 does become negative 19. Pero itong 2.39 mo, magiging 23.9 lang. So, hindi pa rin tapos ang problema. In other words, I'd rather multiply both sides of the equation by a power of 10 with as many zeros as it takes for the number with the most decimal places. Dapat. Ito kasi 1 decimal place, 2 decimal places, 2 decimal places, 1 decimal place. Saan yung may pinakamaraming decimal places sa aking mga coefficients or terms? Dito ako sa 2. So I will multiply therefore both sides of the equation not by 10 but instead by 100. O, di ba? 100 ako dyan. I go 100 times negative 1.9. Gagalaw yan twice. So, this first one will become negative 190. 100 times x is a 100x. And then you have 100 times this. That's a minus 239. Oh, diba? Equals. Gagalaw to twice. 1, 2. Negative 3, 6, 9. Minus. Gagalaw to once, twice. 50x. Oh, diba? No problem. Now, we can combine these terms. Negative 190 and negative 239. Now, scratch your time konti rito. 239, 190. Pareho negative yan. So, we can just add. No? That's 9. That's a 2. That's a 1. 439. So, minus 439 plus 100x on the left. And the minus 369 minus 50x. Nice. Now, what do we do now? Let us maybe add 50x to both sides of the equation. 50x to eliminate the negative 50x on the right, leaving me with minus 369 on the right, 50, 100, and 150x on the left. Ando pa rin yung minus 439 natin. Okay? And then what? We add 439 to both sides of the equation. 439. Tanggal sa kaliwa. That's 150x on the left. And then, what will this be? 369. 439 minus 369. Again, manu-manuhin natin kung gusto niyo. 439, 369. Okay? Subtraction yan. O, 0, 3, 7. O, 70. O, diba? 70. Nice. Finally, we divide both sides by 150. 150. Therefore, x is, simplify mo na rin, 7 over 15. Nice. Diba? Napakadali. Basta dahan-dahan lang, huwag nag-aapura ng solving, and make sure that you use the best multiplier. Okay? Now, you can try this for yourself. Again, pause muna, try solving, hit play when you're done. Okay, good. So, dapat may sagot ka na. You have hit play already. Let's try solving this equation. Look at this. 1, 2 movements. 1 movement. Mamaya natin problemahin ito nasa loob. Okay? Mamaya na yan. So, for now, let's eliminate these ones outside. Kasi mamaya may magagawa pa tayo yata dito. So, what happens here? What I can do is multiply both sides of the equation by, the best multiplier natin, 100. Dahil meron akong 2 decimal places dyan. So, I multiply both sides of the equation by 100. Ito rin ako, 100. What happens here on the left? That's 100x plus, this turns into a 1,165. Oops. Magiging medyo malaki itong ating mga numbers, but that's fine. Choice nyo naman yun eh. Would you rather deal with decimal numbers or would you rather deal with larger integers? Nasa yan. No? So ito, galaw ko twice. Once, twice. 210 times 2.3 plus 2.1x. Okay? Now, problema, sir, meron pa ako dito mga ganyan eh. Decimal numbers. O, pwede naman natin eliminate yan eh. Look at this. One step. So, ano gagawin ko, sir? We can multiply again both sides of the equation by 10. No? Pero this time, look. Ito, multiply natin by 10. Pero pag ito multiply mo ngayon by 10, yung right side, instead of multiplying the 10 by the 210, I will multiply the 10 to this group by DPMA. Diba? So that they get cancelled out. Yeah? So, let's do that. On the left, 10 times 100x, that's 1,000x plus 10 times nito, that's gonna be 11,650 is equal to, this stays as 210. Ang i-multiply ko by DPMA, ito. Pag ganun. Oh, di ba? Ito maging 23 plus 21x. O yan, wala na. Ubus na ang ating mga decimal numbers. But now I have to do some computations with large numbers. But again, that's your choice. I have 1,000x plus 11,650 on the left. And then you go, ika-calculator ko na to para tayo mapatagal. 210 times 23. That is 4,830 plus, that's 210. What? That times 21. Times 21. That's 4410. 4410x. Oh, diba? Then what? Maybe we can eliminate this first. So we subtract 4,830. Subtract 4,830. Both sides. Tanggal to. Tanggal yan. 4410x on the right. And this becomes what? That's 11,650 minus 4,830. That leaves me with 1,000x plus 6,820. Diba? Then what? Tanggalin natin itong 1,000x. Minus 1,000x sakot sa kaliwa. Minus 1,000x sa kanan. Tanggal yan sa kaliwa. This is 6,820 on the left. And a 3,410x on the right. Tama? And then what? We divide both sides by 3,410. 3,410. Uy, parang sakto, no? Times 2, times 2, times 2. Oh, okay, perfect. So, tanggal to, 6,820 divided by 3,410, magiging 2. Di ba? Equals x. But again, if you want, mag-symmetric property ka, x equals 2. Elegant. Diba? This is how we solve equations that involve decimal numbers. Okay? Now, I've prepared some exercises for you here. Solve nyo muna. Try it for yourself. Go get your pen and paper. Pause the video, solve, and then when you're done, hit play and check whether your answers are correct or not. Okay, at this point, meron ka na sagot. Kung pinlay mo na, kung wala pa, pause mo na ulit. Play mo lang kapag meron na. Okay? So, ang sagot nyo dapat sa bawat item ay ang mga sumusunod. Yan. 1/6 for the first, 1 for the second, negative 1.62 for the third, and 20.5 for the fourth. Okay? Tignan ng Google Classroom for any FAs or worksheet items that you still need to do. And keep practicing. Okay? It takes practice. Huwag matakot sa decimal numbers. Huwag matakot sa fractions. They're just numbers. Okay? Thank you.